on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Gamecite Chronicles, a console gaming podcast where we sit down each and every week to talk about video games. I'm your host, Bonfire, and this is episode number 40. And this week is a special episode because today I'm joined by YouTuber and fellow PlayStation fan, 3TopicsGamer, aka Brian. I noticed you go by Brian on Twitter, so I figured that was okay to drop that.
Yeah,
Is that
that's
cool?
fine. But thanks.
Cool. Yeah, well, welcome to the show, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to hop on and chat with me.
Thanks you for having me, man. I have a feeling we have a lot of fun today.
Definitely, especially since we're both big PlayStation fans. Obviously, you've got the big PlayStation stuff on, and so I think it's gonna be fun to talk to someone else who likes PlayStation, probably more than I do, if I'm being honest.
Oh, we'll see. But you're probably right. I mean, I did, get that recently. So.
Oh, you got the sacred symbols on? Oh, that's cool, man. That's very cool. Very, very cool. Awesome. Well, and the other thing I'm excited about too is because, back we've been following each other for a long time on social media. Taking care, watching each other's content and stuff. I obviously fell out of the YouTube game. You're still kicking on the YouTube game, and which is awesome because I see that you're coming across 80K subscribers, 80,000.
Yeah,
you're pretty close to that.
Yeah.
So I think that's really awesome, and so I want to shout out to you, man. That's kudos. That's a big feat. That's much more than I've ever been able to gain myself. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
So it's just fun to sit down and collaborate and actually talk and bring another perspective onto the show. So I'm excited about that.
All right, yeah, let's have fun then.
Cool. Well, before we get into that stuff, though, for the audience out there, hope you guys have had a good week. Got some gaming in. We're recording a little bit earlier than what I normally do. Kind of accommodate our schedules. It's Wednesday. This podcast episode will go up this following Monday. But I think there's a lot of things to dive into when we talk about PlayStation. A lot going on in the gaming industry. Obviously, they had the big release God of War Ragnarok, which I'm sure we'll dive into. I'm excited about that. Get your thoughts on that game, and lots of stuff, fun stuff to talk about. So remember, though, for those that are new, uninitiated to the podcast, the best way you can support the show is to leave us a nice rating. Appreciate that. You can also find the show up on YouTube and Rumble. Love it if you subscribed over there as well. And this is a video episode that we'll do, so I'll put this up on YouTube and Rumble. You guys can check that out. And you can follow me on Twitter at Gamecite Podcast. And remember to catch new episodes of the show each and every week on Mondays, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So as I mentioned, we're going to dive into PlayStation. But before we get into that and some of the topics that I've kind of curated for us to dive into, we got to talk about the games that we're playing. So I want to kick it over to you, Brian. What have you been playing lately, and kind of share some of your thoughts and games?
Let's see. I literally just beat God of War Ragnarok yesterday after about 31 hours.
Okay.
So I'm happy about that. So I'm currently working on the script for my review of that. I'm also playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I got done beating Gotham Knights, about a week ago. And then for that, I was playing some Resident Evil Village, and I managed to play that in third person. So right now, the next game after this one that I'm playing, after I get my God of War review and my Call of Duty review, will probably be the Callisto Protocol. That's probably going to be the last main game that I'll be playing this year for 2022.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that game. I love Dead Space, and so
dude,
love those.
I already got the exclusive collector's edition ready to go. I already got the Dead Space that collector's edition ready to go. So yeah, I'm good.
That's awesome. The Dead Space one that comes with a helmet.
A helmet, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, and it's awesome that those games are coming out like just back to back, like within a month of each other.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be great.
It's gonna be awesome. So I did see you tweeted out, and this kind of spoils a little topic when we get ahead of it, but I'm curious if you could share some thoughts on God of War. It sounds like that's your game of the year,
yes,
or your favorite game of the year. So, I know you're going to put a review up, so we'll be sure to check that out. But what are some thoughts on the game, like without spoiling anything, of course? I myself am only 12 hours in.
Okay. I think I know how far I can talk about it. I love it. I think it is a great conclusion to the Norse mythology era. I think it did a fantastic job of, closing some stories for certain characters and at least giving hints of where the story could actually go with certain characters. And I'm happy to see where it goes. It definitely went in some directions I was not expecting. And it even went in directions I would never even thought the story would go in this direction, and it even did things that I didn't even anticipate. And I think I love it when games do that. It's like I like have a preset thought of what my expectations are, and then it's amazing
Yeah.
when they do something entirely different that I never would have thought of, and it's better because of it. It's like, wow, it's like I wasn't expecting it to go in this direction, but the fact
Yeah.
that it is, and I had just no clue that they would even go in this direction, made it all the more better. And I love it when stories do that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
Like,
I'll save my thoughts for here just a little bit, but that's awesome to hear. Gotham Knights. Can you talk to me a little bit about that game? Because that seems like it's gotten some
mm,
mixed reviews out there. I haven't played it myself.
and
So
it's not that bad. I mean, it's not very great, but it's not that good. It's something that I didn't really have all that much fun playing. I mean, I spent a good amount of time avoiding seeing as much of that gameplay. So just going
yeah.
in, I thought it was going to be just something similar to something like the Arkham series, and it really
Yep.
isn't. And I think
Oh,
some people
okay.
are going to be a bit disappointing. There's definitely some good
Yeah.
aspects about it, and I think there's
Yeah.
definitely going to be an audience for it. But just for me personally, it didn't quite reach the expectations that I had for it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. From what I've seen of the gameplay, it just didn't really look that exciting to me. I don't know. There's just something that seems kind of off about it.
Yeah.
And I love the Arkham games. Like those Batman Arkham games
Oh.
are fantastic. And so like seeing this, I was like, okay, I could get into this, but a couple directions they went to. Like I'm not big on co-op games, so that really didn't appeal to me.
Yeah.
It seemed like there was kind of a lot of and I don't know if this is true, but it seems like there's a lot of unnecessary like RPG elements in there.
Yeah,
That
it's there, and I'm all for RPGs, but I don't think it needs to be added to every single game. Sometimes some games it works with them, and then some games it really wasn't necessary, and they could have really benefited from just simplifying certain aspects of their gameplay style.
yeah, 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 definitely. Um, Now the last thing you touched on was Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, right?
Yes.
Okay. Because I've heard a lot about this game. I dive in and out of Call of Duty every now and then.
Hmm,
Last one I played was Black Ops Cold War.
okay.
But I used to be a big Call of Duty fan. Like when I started my YouTube channel, it was a lot about Call of Duty stuff.
Oh yeah.
Um, but with this new Modern Warfare game, it seems like the campaign's pretty good. So is that what you're going to review? And that's what you
Oh
played
yeah,
through?
yeah. I'm doing campaign and multiplayer, and so far
Okay.
I'm about halfway through the campaign, and yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think where it's strongest is has a much more diverse structure in terms of how the missions play out. But I
Okay.
will say that it does have a tendency to kind of take inspiration from prior key missions from other games, so whether or
Mm,
not you could see them either playing homage to those missions, or maybe they're just not they're having a hard time finding its own identity. But I think that the game is strongest when it's doing things that we haven't seen in other games instead of things that we have seen in other games, but has done a little bit better. That's just kind of. But
okay.
hopefully it'll hopefully that'll be the case throughout the rest of the campaign because I'm only halfway through. But that's just kind of where I
Yeah.
stand with it right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know, just I've always liked the Modern Warfare games, like the original Modern Warfare
Okay.
games, and one of my buddies who I've had on the show, Legend of Cotton. I don't know, he used to be a really big Call of Duty YouTuber, but he kind of does TikTok stuff now,
Okay.
but still plays a lot of Call of Duty. And he told me, and because he knows kind of my taste in games, I'm more of a single player kind of guy. But he said like these Modern Warfare campaigns for the 2019 one and then this one, like you got to play them. Like I think you'll like them.
Okay.
So it's kind of piqued my interest. So I'm going to keep an eye out on those and hopefully dive into those
Oh yeah,
eventually.
yeah.
Did you,
I'd give him a try.
yeah. Did you ever dive into that Warzone,
No,
that
I
free to
did
play
not.
version?
Unfortunately, I kind of like skip every. I'd heard about it, but I
Yeah.
never actually went out of my way to actually try test it out.
Yeah. I haven't tried it either. Again, it's just, I don't know. There's so many games out there. It's hard to dive into some of these multiplayer games. But I will say that I know the Warzone 2.0, I think just launched today. And so I was watching some gameplay. I don't know. I'd like to try it just to see if it's something that's fun to
Okay,
do.
yeah, I can give it a shot.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So for me, the games I've just since I've recorded a couple days ago the previous episode, haven't had a ton of time to play different games, but I've been playing God of War Ragnarok. That's pretty much all I've been playing.
Nice.
Like I said, I'm about 11, 12 hours or so. Not as far as I want to be, but life gets in the
Oh
way.
yeah, I understand
Um,
that.
yeah, definitely. But one of the things, and I'm curious if you feel the same way. But when I booted up this game, you play the first like the opening hour or so. One of the things that really struck me is just how high quality of this game is. From the voice acting to the design to the music to the settings, just the level of detail within this game is just so high that it kind of got me thinking. And I don't know if you play on like Xbox or anything like
No.
that, but in thinking about when I do dabble into the Xbox ecosystem, like there's just nothing, and this is not a diss necessarily on Xbox, but there's nothing of that caliber,
Yeah.
that quality over on that platform from the first and second parties, and it just I don't know, it just kind of hit me. Same with like Horizon, thinking back to Horizon Forbidden West. I'm sure you played through
Oh
that, but
yeah.
that's another like very
Mm.
very high quality game that like I just there's nothing on the Xbox side that can rival that. I don't think,
Yeah,
anyways.
and I find it
Um,
funny because like I think either earlier this year or sometimes last year, like a lot of people were like cheering, saying Microsoft was buying up all these studios. I'd be like, okay, they might have all these
yes,
studios. Where are the games? You
100%.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, what's when you buy all
Yeah.
these studios? Like, until you show me something, it's like I'm not all that impressed because you might have all these studios, but you need to produce something, and they haven't so far, or they really haven't produced anything that I found really all that impressive. And that's not a diss towards them. Maybe they're taking their time, and maybe next year or the after that, then they'll actually start releasing their first party support games. But it just hasn't happened so far. But who knows what will happen in the near future?
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree with that. And I know last year they had, Halo Infinite. I did play through that. I thought it was of the of 4, 5, and then Infinite. I think Infinite was probably the best, I guess,
Huh.
campaign. But compared to like the Bungie Halos, like it just doesn't even hold a candle to them anymore. It's really gone off the rails. And then I know a lot of people were hyping up Forza Horizon 5 as like, oh, this really awesome game. It had lots of players. And I don't know, I'm just not really big into racing games. I dove into
Yeah.
it. I can see the appeal. It's fun, but it's just not really my style game. But even those games still like the quality is just not the same.
Hmm.
Not even close. One of the things though in playing God of War Ragnarok that I do it kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit is there's a lot of instances where you kind of go through little caves or squeeze through different walls and stuff like that from like one area to the next. And I know like in game design that's usually used to hide load
Oh yes.
times. And because I know that this game's on PlayStation 4 as well. And I'm curious that if it wasn't on PS4, would we have so many of those? Because I have to imagine, because you're developing for the lowest common
Mhm.
denominator there, that's why they squeeze in so many of these sections. So I don't know, that kind of bums me out in that perspective. It reminded me of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Did you play that game?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Well, that not just this doesn't spoil anything, but there's a lot of those similar types of squeezing through areas that you do in that
Hmm.
game, and that being on PS4, same thing, right?
Yeah, I think it may be due to the fact that I'd say even after what PlayStation 5's been out for like almost 2 years. If you look at the first party games, neither of them have
Yeah,
actually been strictly on PlayStation 5. And I've heard that we probably won't even be
yeah,
getting games like that until sometime next year. Like they have to develop it for both the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, but they have to keep them as similar as possible. And they acknowledge that, okay, yeah, the PlayStation 4 is not as powerful as PlayStation 5, so it can't run. I just feel like we're still at a point where most people still do not have a PlayStation 5 and most people still have a PlayStation 4.
yeah,
So I think that the success of the PlayStation 4, though it was incredibly good and incredibly high, and there's so many have been sold, that is
yeah,
technically still kind of holding back the PlayStation 5 from developers from actually pushing this as hard as it can. Like, trust me, God of War Ragnarok looks absolutely incredible. However, I am
yeah,
curious that if this was strictly a PlayStation 5 game and didn't have to worry about developing for the PlayStation 4, would this game be running better than it already is? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's an incredible game. Definitely the best game I've played so far this year, but there's still that
yeah,
little bit of like, huh. And the fact that I did again find it annoying that this is like the second time that I've actually had to purchase two copies of a game because when I got the collector's edition, they sent you a steel book with no game in there. Like,
Yeah.
what's the point of that?
Yeah. Yes, I totally agree. And because I got the Horizon Collector's Edition, had to deal with the same thing.
Right
And
there.
yeah, I was super bummed about that. But what the statue is really cool on the Horizon one, so I really wanted to get that and add that to my collection. But yeah, that's a big bummer there that they're doing that. I don't know. I like you. I think I still collect physical games. I
Mhm,
like having the the physical game and all that.
mhm.
I'm still a big proponent of that where I can. Um, but one of the things I really like about God of War Ragnarok that really stands out to me, and from what I've played so far, is just the kind of, it's not really banter, but just the conversations the characters have as you're exploring different
Yeah.
areas. Like it's constantly going, and I remember that being pretty prevalent in the first game with that the head character. His name's Mimir, I think
Yes.
it is, and he's just telling you stories, giving you lore, background, just constantly talking and telling you, kind of getting you immersed in this world. And that's continued with this game, but now there's even more kind of conversation between all the
Oh,
characters,
big
and
time.
I love that.
Love that.
I just it gets you immersed, and then it gives you background, and then I can even just some of the dialogue between Kratos and I think it's
Yes.
Atreus, just very emotional,
Oh,
I guess,
oh,
to
I
a certain degree.
absolutely love that. There's never really a dull moment. I mean, even with some of the side missions, like you would think that these side missions are just adding for
Yeah,
padding, but no, each of them actually does have a purpose. It tells its own individual story that actually gives you more
yeah,
information on the lore of the realm that you are in. And Mimir is always there to kind of tell you a little bit about them and tell you why what you did. It may seem small, but it actually has a
yeah,
greater significance to the situation that you're currently in. And I absolutely love that about Ragnarok. I think they did a solid job in the last God of War game, but they definitely elevated it to a much better level this time around, which made me want to even do more site missions just for the heck of it.
yeah, yeah, definitely. um yeah, I really like that. It also reminds me of, did you ever play that, it's a Square Enix game, or Guardians of the Galaxy? I think it was last year it came out.
No, I did not. I didn't play that one, but I saw that a lot. It was apparently pretty good, so I think that might be something I might go back and give it a
Yeah,
shot when I have a little bit more time.
I would definitely recommend
Okay.
it. Yeah, I played through it. I would recommend it. I thought it's a great
Okay.
story, and again, the same thing there, because all those characters, a lot of banter between those characters, like almost to the point where they like never shut up, but it's comical. Like it's never too much, and it's because you get the Guardians of the Galaxy style of humor in there, and it's, I don't know, I really enjoyed that, but it kind of reminded me
Yeah,
of
good
that
to
as well.
hear.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that game's got to be like super cheap now, so
Yeah,
I'm sure you can
sure,
get it at
sure.
a
I can
pretty good deal.
get it then.
Yeah. Yeah, so other than that, God of War Ragnarok's what I'm playing through. There is a game that just came out. It's on Xbox. I don't know if it's on PlayStation yet, but it's a game called not Signalist, Somerville.
Somerville.
Have you heard about this game?
No, it's not ringing any bells.
Somerv.
It's not ringing any
So
bells.
it's kind of this. Yeah, I'm gonna look it up here real time because it's basically, that's fine, an adventure game. Kind of it's like 2D, almost like puzzle
Hmm.
platformer, by one of the guys who co-founded Playdead. He worked on Limbo and Inside, so it's very much in those, that kind of that style and vein
Okay.
in terms of gameplay. But it's kind of sci-fi, so I think it's about this kind of alien invasion,
Hmm.
and you play this dad trying to find his family or something like that.
Okay.
So I don't know, it looks really interesting to me. So I definitely want to dive into that, and I heard it's not too long either, which I like. I like some of these shorter experiences
Okay.
because then I can kind of get
Yeah.
through them. So that's on my to-do list as well.
You
But
have fun with that one.
yeah, yeah, I'll report out once I get through it eventually. But yeah, God of War Ragnarok's top of priority right
Mhm.
now. I want to continue my playthrough of that. Okay, so let's dive into some PlayStation stuff. So let's start with the PlayStation Plus
Okay.
tiers. So I'm subscribed to just the basic PS Plus
Yeah.
tier. Are you subscribed to any of those premium tiers, or
No,
just the
I'm
basic
still
ones?
sticking with the basic ones because the thing about me, I've looked at those other tiers and I've seen that it gives you
Yeah.
access to a wider variety of library of games, and I like that.
Yep.
It's just that with me having been gaming for so long, it just seems like all the games for like the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 2, all the games I actually would have wanted to play, I already have. But I do think that this is so, and I still got my PlayStation 2 that works just fine, and my PlayStation 3 works just fine. So,
Yeah,
saves me a lot of money because like I already have all those games. But I do think that for what they're charging. I do think it's a good service for anyone who might be younger and didn't get a chance to play some of those older games and didn't have the ability to play those other games. So I do think that it is a
yeah,
great way for younger players who perhaps did not grow up when those games came out as we did and didn't have the chance to play those or don't even have
yeah,
the means to play that to have play them now. So in that sense, I do think that the subscription and that idea is a good idea, and it's certainly worth it, especially if you have access to that massive collection of library of games. So, oh yeah, I definitely support it.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, because there's like I think
Oh
400
yes.
something games on the service, so it's there's a ton, and I've perused through it, and I'm kind of in the same boat to where there's some games on there like, oh, I'd like maybe like to try that one out, but a lot of the big hits, like especially like from the first and second party, like I've already played them
Hmm.
or I have them. So it's just like I don't really need this service. But I definitely agree that for those that maybe haven't played those games or some of those older games you just haven't experienced, like yeah, that would be a great way to do it. But I'm kind of brings up the thought process, like because you'd think like PlayStation Plus is for the more hardcore big fans, like you and I, right? But then again, a lot of the games that they bring on there are games that we've
Hmm.
already played. So is it just for those younger audiences, or like who are they really trying to capture?
I think it could be for the younger audiences, or I would even say there's even people probably around our age that might have played those games at one time, or maybe sometimes have lost the means to play those games. So um, I'm just lucky that I'm fortunate that I can still play those games on the consoles that they originally came on. But I know that there's some others that don't have that means anymore. Maybe they gave up their console, or maybe they don't have it anymore or lost it. So if they want a chance to replay them and I have to, find a way to because we're still waiting for a game for a system to be backwards compatible, which I do with the PlayStation 5 is to a certain degree. Because I remember not too long ago there was
Yeah,
like talk of maybe them doing like an emulator or having some sort of system that like would allow you to play older generation games on there, but they haven't figured that out yet. But yeah, I certainly think that the audience
yeah,
could be pretty wide depending on a were you there when these games came out, and b even if you don't have the means to play them, here's your chance to actually go back and play some of these older games that you probably really enjoyed when you're younger, but you may not have anymore. So I definitely think that the audience is much more bigger than just focusing on players that are younger and just didn't get a chance to play them when it originally came out.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a good point. And you kind of talk about like being able to play them natively. That makes me think about PlayStation 3, right? Because there's so many
Hmm.
awesome games on the PlayStation 3, like say the Infamous games or the Resistance trilogy, some of the later Killzone games. That's an awesome text message
That's
sound, by
right.
the way. um, but like just some of those games that are just stranded on the
I
PlayStation
know.
3 that you can stream them, I think, through the
Yes.
service, but it's streaming, right? Like I've not done it myself, but I've heard it's
Oh yeah,
inconsistent in
yeah,
terms of
yeah.
performance.
There's some games that allow you to actually download it, so it's easier, and then there's some that it's only done by
Yeah.
streaming. So unless you have like a really good signal, which I've just used like a landline instead of the Wi-Fi, that you definitely run into some
Yep.
problems. Which is why I'm not really all for that service simply because it's like I already have the games I want to
Yeah.
play, and even if I want to, I just don't trust that I can't download them as you can with certain games. It's kind of inconsistent depending on your
Yep.
subscription tier level. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that totally great. And I think that's an area opportunity for Sony just to like they've got to figure out the PS3 backwards compatibility thing. Like you cannot leave those games on that
I
stranded on that
agree.
hardware.
I
Like bring
agree.
them forward. There's a lot of
Hmm.
awesome ones on there. Now, how do you feel about Sony's stance in regards to kind of the subscription service with day and date stuff? They've done a couple of random day and date releases on the PlayStation, like Stray, for example. That seems to have been a big hit on the PlayStation Plus. I haven't played it
Same here.
myself
So
personally. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've heard it's good, but I don't know if
yeah.
it's for me. But they're pretty prominent in terms of not wanting to do day and date games on the service. So how do you
I
feel
think
about
it's
that?
a bit of a mistake. I think that's something that could really help. But I think that they're attempting some sort of new business strategy, but I don't really think it's something that's going to be very sustainable. Just from my opinion.
Okay. Why is
I,
that? Because I think I'm of a different
I
mind.
just don't. I think that with that kind of strategy, I just don't think it's something that has a lot of longevity. I think that's something that might work in the short term, but
Okay.
I think that if you're expecting it to last for a long period of time, you might not get a big enough audience to be able to support just fine using that kind of practice. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I like that they don't want to do this because and I've talked about this on the podcast before and kind of my rants on Game Pass, but one of my biggest fears with Game Pass is and I think we've already seen evidence of this, is that it's training consumer expectations to not want to buy games, and it's also decreasing the perceived
Oh
value of a
yes.
video game. Right? There's a lot of controversy around the $70 price tag. Like everyone's all scared of the $70 price tag. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of that comes from a lot of people just want to be able to pay a subscription fee, 10-15 bucks a month, and get whatever they want. And I think that's
I agree
detrimental
because now
to the
you
industry.
get this mentality that people don't actually own their games. And that's something, and as
Yeah,
someone
that's
who's
a big part of it.
big on physical games, that's just something I don't support. Like once you
Yeah.
have that, like I like imagine a world where we're going in a direction where everything is digital. And like you need an internet connection to
Mhm.
even play your games. You can't even like allow your friends to borrow games. You can't rent games. You can't trade them
Yeah.
in. It's just like if I have a system that's purely digital, do I actually own this game?
Mm-mm. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Well, and the other part of my problem with the Game Pass and the subscription services and day and dates is like also from a revenue standpoint, because if you're not selling your games, and I think this is Xbox's strategy, they don't care about game sales anymore, right? Everything's being built for Game Pass, and it's all the studios, the acquisitions, everything they're doing is to basically feed fodder into the Game Pass subscription service, similar to the way Netflix operates with their content. But since you're not selling any games, you have to make up that revenue elsewhere, right? And subscription
Sure.
services alone, I don't
Yeah, I
aren't
agree.
going to cover that, especially if you, especially like look at Microsoft. If they get the Activision Blizzard, all those studios, I think they'll have like 30 plus first party studios, and they're all making AAA games. Like Call of Duty, it's just by itself is a couple hundred million to make
Definitely.
every time. It's huge, right? And so you think about this kind of finite limited of pool of subscription money that has to be distributed amongst all of your studios that you're making games for. Plus, you have to pay for all the content of all these third party games that you're bringing to the platform. I just don't know how that's sustainable. Xbox can do it
Oh,
because they've got
for sure.
Microsoft money, right? All that software money, they can do it, but
Oh,
PlayStation can't
absolutely.
compete with that. So I like that they're not going that direction. And I think the other thing with Game Pass is I think it's potentially creates a higher barrier of entry for developers because it's a
I
curation
agree.
service, right? So every not every game makes it onto Game Pass. And so if you're not on Game Pass on the Xbox ecosystem, then it's very hard to get noticed and sell your game. As opposed to being on Game Pass, then you're kind of at the forefront, and that's what people are looking for. So with Sony kind of avoiding that, the way I see it is they can get their game sales, sell their games, do what they need to do. Once the sales kind of stagnate, then they kind of have two options to they can put it on PC, which we've seen them start to do that, get some additional revenue that way, and then bring it to the service and maybe, see a spike in subscribers or, maybe there's some back end monetization somewhere. But I think it actually increases the life cycle of their
Yeah,
products.
I'd say if they try doing something like that, I do think they definitely I think that would definitely improve it. The question is, are they willing to attempt to do something like that, or do they actually are
Yeah.
they trying to make as much money as possible? Are they trying to be customer friendly? Like we're just not exactly sure what their long term plan is. Like, are they trying to restructure the entire gaming market at this point, or and have it affect it? Like if Microsoft starts going down this path, is it going to put pressure and make Sony want to try to do that? Which they probably can't do that. The same thing goes for Nintendo. I don't think Nintendo's going to even attempt to do something like that. So then that Microsoft
No,
is
I
kind
don't
of
think so.
standing
Yeah,
on this island by itself and being like, heck, you go down this direction. But these other two, like, heck, we're not doing that. We can't afford to do that. So, like, what are you going to do?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really interesting to see because I think for years we've kind of seen this, between Sony and Microsoft kind of split their direction.
Oh,
Their
yeah.
strategies are very different. But I like Sony's
I
approach
agree.
better. I have to say, and we'll obviously see who,
In the long term,
how
I
it
agree.
pans out. But um, of course, yeah, 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 definitely. Um, okay, let's switch. I know, in the pre-show you weren't super excited about this one, but let's touch on it real briefly. The PSVR 2. It sounds
Yeah,
like you're not much of a
not
VR guy,
really.
which is totally fine. But what do you make of the PSVR 2, and why
Uh,
does it not appeal to you, or
I
VR maybe?
just, how do I explain it? I was like, I don't like the idea of having to wear a headset and my special controls. Like I already went through a phase like
Yeah.
that with the Move controller, and I think that was kind of like a gimmick for the
Mm-hmm.
time because Move controllers at the time were kind of being
Yeah.
inspiration, kind of being encouraged because of what was going on with the Nintendo Wii, and that's the direction they were going, and PlayStation was
Yeah.
trying to keep up with that. I think with VR, I just think that it's such a weird experience. I think I've tried playing. I think I've only attempted like one VR game, and I think it was all the way back at the only E3 I ever went to. I actually got to test out like a VR headset, and it was for this one shooter game, and
Okay.
it's just like, yeah, I'm not. I mean, I'm already kind of like scared to be playing games by myself. So having a headset and doing all this weird stuff, I think that'll work for some people, but it's not really
Yeah.
it's not really my cup of tea, as some people would say. But I definitely could see the attraction of something like that for people that do like playing games like that. But it's just never been something that's been for me personally. I don't know about you if you have that, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I got the PSVR 1 when it came out. I was a, day one purchaser, and mostly because, I had never really experienced VR before. But right before it came out, I actually went to like the my local GameStop, which I'm not the biggest GameStop fan, but they were holding like a special PSVR, like try out PSVR, do this whole thing. So I went down there with a buddy and we tried it
Hmm.
out, and I was like, this is awesome. So it kind of sold me on the experience. And so I picked it up. I played some of those early games, but with the first PSVR, like there's so many, like you got this box and there's like four different cables. You got like it's a whole thing to get into PSVR, to get this thing set up, and then get the move controllers, make sure they're charged, get the headset
I'm
on, get
curious.
your
Does,
headphones
does,
on. It's
does a
just
VR2 is
as
that using
opposed
its
to
own unique remotes, or is it using like the Move controllers as well? I'm curious. Okay.
no, it has its own remote, so it's very similar to one of the I think the
Ah,
Oculus, one
okay.
of the more
Okay.
recent Oculus ones. To where it's got a couple buttons on each side
Okay.
and it's got haptics in there. They're very
Okay.
much way more sophisticated.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I will say I'm excited for PSVR 2 just to try it out, see if it gets me
Okay.
back into PSVR. Um, I think my biggest thing that because some games
Oh,
I got a
I
little motion
bet.
sickness. I'm a little prone to motion sickness, so I'm curious to see how the second, because obviously with the higher fidelity and better hardware and stuff like that, it's supposed to
Well,
help with
we'll
that
see
stuff.
how that
So
goes.
we'll see how that goes. Um, but the price point for the PSVR 2 is it's
Yes, I
high.
have.
Have you seen that?
Very high.
uh,
Do you, I mean, do,
yes, like
which
it's more than
is
the console.
nuts to think about. I was just like, let me get this. It's like
Yeah,
you
it
want
really
me to
is.
pay more for a console for this, and I can't even use it unless I have the console. So I'm like, that is a lot of money for to play
Yeah,
a few different video games. So like, I like you better. It's
yeah,
up to you if you want to pay that much for it, or you think it'll be worth that type of experience.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll see. When they announced all the kind of their a bunch of games, like their games lineup, and all that stuff outside of Horizon, and there's another game, I forget the name of it now, but it's like a kind of a military shooter game that I thought looked pretty cool, that I think would actually be fun. But outside of that, like there wasn't really anything that appealed to me from like this initial lineup. So I have a feeling that that's
Yeah,
going to be pretty weak
perhaps at first,
for
maybe
them.
maybe it'll get better the longer it's out. But yeah, probably won't be very strong. And definitely at
Yeah.
first, for sure.
Yeah, I hope so. But we'll see. Um, so moving on from VR, I want to talk about what's next for PlayStation. And I think this is I know
Mm-hmm.
you've got some ideas, but
Hit me.
let me lay the foundation here. So God of War Ragnarok was kind of the last major game we knew
Mm-hmm.
coming from PlayStation first party. Outside of really a couple other games that you know we don't really have definite timelines on, but God of War was like, okay, we knew when it was coming out. We'd seen a lot about this game. It was the big
Uh-huh.
Sony first party game, so everyone's hyped about it. Now it's here, and it's like, what's next? What's on the horizon? And so we
Mm-hmm.
know Spider-Man 2 is
Yes.
supposedly coming out next year. Very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Wolverine, also from Insomniac, is coming at some point. And then really the only one I can think of, and maybe you've got something, is The Last of Us
Yeah,
Factions
from what
from
I know.
Naughty Dog. Yeah. So I mean, supposedly that's coming out. I think it's going to be early next year to kind of coincide with the show, but who knows at this point. Outside of that, though, like I don't know what these
That's,
first party studios are doing, and so I don't know if you have some ideas, we
oh,
can jump
sure.
into it, or if you want to go through the first party studios, I've got them pulled up here. Doesn't matter, however
Okay.
you want to
Well,
tackle this one.
another one for sure. I'm not sure when they'll announce it. Maybe they'll announce it sometime next year, the after that. I would definitely expect a Ghost of Tsushima 2 at some point from Sucker Punch.
Mhm.
I think
Yep, yep,
personally, I think we could definitely get a Rivet and Kit game from Insomniac, Ratchet and Clank, but focus on the new characters they introduced. I think they did so incredibly well, so they're definitely worthy of getting their own game. Let's see what
oh,
else.
that's interesting.
What else could they do? Not sure what Naughty Dog will do after that. I think it'll be a while before we see something from Santa Monica. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, because they just went, yeah. Though I so let's dig into so for Naughty Dog, I know Naughty Dog is they're working on supposedly a new IP, I believe, outside of Factions. And have you seen that rumor that I think there is an Easter egg in The Last of Us Part One to where I think it's a fantasy comic book that you can find in the game, and a lot of people are speculating that that's going to be their next IP is based off this comic book that's
No, I
found
haven't
within
seen
the
anything
game. Have you
about
seen anything about
that.
that?
Oh,
I
huh.
was seeing that kind of circulating, so that might
Interesting.
be interesting. Um, I don't know. I definitely want to see Naughty Dog do something different. They're like, get away from The
Oh
Last of
yes.
Us, get away from Uncharted, use that narrative and all the skills that they have, like use it for something brand new
Oh,
and see where
I'd
that
love
goes.
to
I would
hear that
love to
too.
see that.
I love it. I mean, that's the thing I've always loved about PlayStation is that they're sometimes never too scared to retire older franchises and start new ones. Like one of the best door
Yep.
examples that I've seen
Yeah.
came from both Guerrilla Studios and Sucker Punch. For Sucker Punch, they eventually did go on to retire the infamous franchise and are focusing on the Ghost of Tsushima. And when it comes to Guerrilla Games, they retired
Yeah.
Killzone, which, mind you, was a long running franchise that ran from PlayStation 2 all the way to the beginning of PlayStation 4. They retired that, and we now have Horizon, and they've given us two
Yeah.
incredible games plus the new VR game. And there's no question we're probably going to get a third game.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Probably, if I had to guess, maybe before the end of this generation, this console cycle. I would guess. I'm certainly. I don't think they would wait
I
until
would think
like the
that's fair.
beginning of maybe when a PlayStation 6 gets announced. But yeah, I would definitely bet my money that we'll get it probably
Yeah.
right before the PlayStation 6 comes out. But that's just my guess.
Yeah. 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 No, I'm with you there. Um, so Santa
Mhm.
Monica Studio, obviously they just released God of War Ragnarok, but we know Corey Borlaug he wasn't on as
No,
a
no.
like the game director, I think, for God of War Ragnarok because he was doing something else. So they're working on a different IP over there that he's running. So I mean, we could see that in maybe the next
I
2
love to
years.
see
That would be really
what they're
interesting.
up to. I really do. Is
Yeah, yeah, I agree there. That's really exciting. Um, let's see here. So what about Team Asobi?
Team
What do you think they're up
yeah,
to?
I just pulled up all the PlayStation studios that they have right now. So I was just kind of seeing like what are they
Yeah,
working on, like series that they have right now, and
yeah. So, because did you play that Astro's
Yes, I did.
Playroom that's like packed in with
Absolutely.
the
Came with
PS5?
PlayStation 5. You gotta test that out. Oh my god, that is
Yeah.
such a great game to kind of show off what the functions of the DualSense controller is. Even after about a
Yes.
year and a half since the system's been out, that's still one of the best games to try out. Like a lot of people that aren't sold on that controller, I would say
Yeah.
play that game. You will then see exactly
Yes.
what this controller is capable of. I was a little saddened that I would say
Yeah.
this isn't maybe too much of a spoiler that God of War Ragnarok doesn't really use it to the full extent as I was expecting it, which this doesn't hurt the game at all. It's still a fantastic game, which is something I think
Yeah.
Horizon took full advantage of it far more than God of War did. But I think that moving forward, I would expect more games to
Yeah.
incorporate the use of that more often. But yeah, I just thought it was just incredible game to
Yeah.
show off what that controller could actually do properly.
Yeah, yeah, it was amazing. And so I part of me thinks that they're because I know they did
Yeah.
the Astrobot VR game on the PS4 and that was really popular. So part of me thinks they're going to make another, maybe a sequel to that for the PSVR 2, but man, I'd really love them to see them kind of expand upon what they did with Astro's Playroom, like make a full-fledged platformer with Astrobot and doing all the dual sense stuff and just make I
I'd
think
love to
that would
see
be
that
awesome. I would
also. I
love
think
to
that'd
see
be
something like that.
great.
Yeah. Ben Studio.
Yes, it did.
Did you play Days Gone?
I love that game. Very underrated.
What did you think of that one?
I
Okay.
hope we get a
Okay.
sequel. There was a lot of controversy saying that
Yeah.
not people played it, and I was like, I did. I not only did it, I got the collector's edition sitting right over there in my case. I had a lot of fun. I would love to see that story continue.
Yeah.
I hope it's not a one off game because that game is far better than people I think give it credit for. Way far better.
Yeah. I'm mostly in the same camp. I liked that game. Partly I'm a little biased because it takes place in Oregon. That's kind of my home area. And it's like we don't get too many games out in that front. So it's awesome in that front, but it does a lot of really cool things. And I think they laid down a solid foundation, with the horde system,
Oh.
being able to kind of, the
Mhm.
biker gang, some of the characters and the story and stuff like that. And I looking back, I enjoyed my time with that game. When I first started it, I couldn't get into it, so I set it down for a while. But then I did come back, did beat it, and enjoyed it. I think my biggest problem is the pacing of the story was just pretty bad in my opinion. Because I don't know, it just didn't kind of flow very well.
Oh.
But it's still a good game, and I think they have a lot of questions to unanswer. Like one of the things I would love to see them explore in a sequel is more about those
Uh-huh.
what are the neuroscientist guys? Like I want to know more
What are
about
they
that. Like
doing?
what are they
Oh
doing?
yeah.
I maybe yeah, you know
Especially with how the secret ending kind of like hinted on like what's really going on there, and you'd be like, oh yeah, wow, this is there's definitely some potential for this
yeah.
to go to some very cool places soon.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So I would love to see that. I think though, if I'm not mistaken, I
Yeah,
think they're working on a new IP. Ben Studio is. So we'll see on that. I just hope because I know Days Gone took them.
way
I want
too
to say like
long.
7 years to make. It was way too long. So hopefully they can turn around something sooner than that. Um, Blue Point. I mean, these guys are the
Hmm.
remake remaster dudes. Do you think they're remaking or remastering something
I
or
think
making their
they
own
should
game?
probably stick to what they've been doing. I think if they do like a couple more games, then I think they would have enough
Yeah.
confidence that Sony would encourage them to try and make a game of their own. But yeah, they definitely are the absolute masters of remaking games, or at least remastering them for current gen systems. Like, without
Okay.
question, the masters of that.
Yeah. 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 I kind of want to see them. Yeah, I'm with you. Keep the remakes, keep the remasters coming. And I think this is where you give them some of those PS3 games. Like give them
Oh, a
the
resistance.
infamous
Oh
games.
man,
Like have them redo that.
we need at least
Yes, Resistant. Yes,
one shooter.
do a Resistance
We
trilogy.
do not have a definitive shooter
Yes,
anymore. A
yes,
lot of these games are like third person action adventure titles, which I love. I don't get me wrong. I mean, like Ratchet and Clank,
yes.
that's third person.
Yep.
Uh, Horizon, that's third person. God of War, that's first person. Days Gone, that's first person. Ghost of Tsushima, that's third person. It's like give us a definitive first person,
Yep.
and we own and that only came out in the PlayStation 3 era, which is like key for us for why the PlayStation 3 era still remains my favorite. Like, give us just one new
Yeah.
attempt. If you don't want to go back to Killzone, you don't want to go back to Resistance, start something new. But we definitely need a definitive,
Yeah.
exclusive first person franchise. I think it's long overdue because the last one that we had
Yes.
was Killzone, and that
Yeah.
was served as like kind of like the intro release title for the PlayStation 4, which I thought was really good. But that was really the last one
Oh yeah.
we
Yeah.
ever got, and that was like
Yeah.
almost a decade ago. It came out like a long time. Yeah.
Gosh, 2013. I think. Yeah, you're right. Wow. That. Yeah, because I
Mhm.
remember getting my PS4 that night. I
That was
got
my
Killzone as one of
first
my
game.
launch titles, and that was the first game I played. Yep. Hopped into that, and I think I
Mm-hmm.
hopped right into the multiplayer, which was a lot of fun. Um, man, yeah, yeah. The PlayStation definitely
Oh,
needs a first-person shooter for sure, and I think I would love to see them bring back the Resistance trilogy, do Killzone. You know,
absolutely.
give it to
Those would
Bluepoint.
be
Let
day
them
one
let them bring
buys
those games
without
from the
question.
PS3 and bring them over. Yeah, 100. Yeah, oh yeah, definitely, definitely would love that. Um, let's see. I know there's Fire Sprite.
No, not
I don't know if we
really.
have much. I don't. Do you have anything to say about them? Okay, I because I think those guys do some of the PC stuff as well as VR. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Gorilla, obviously, they're in Horizon. They just
For a
launched
little
a
bit,
game
yeah, I
this year.
agree.
I don't think we're gonna hear from them for a little bit. Um, yeah.
Yes, I did.
Housemark, did you play
Another
Returnal?
third person shooter. I really enjoyed that game.
What'd you think of that?
Another one.
Yeah,
Um, I
yeah,
actually have a friend who's really into that. But yeah, I enjoyed Returnal. Um, definitely love this concept. Definitely like things they did. But
yeah,
yes, a game that also used the dual sense. I would say that's definitely in the top five games that use the dual sense
yes,
extremely well, and I loved its overall
yeah.
game structure and how it did things. But oh yeah, definitely, I really enjoyed Returnal. It was certainly one of the best games I played. I believe they came out last year for sure. So yeah, but yeah, it's definitely one of the better games I
I
played.
think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, yeah. Returnal is all like every time I think back about Returnal, I'm
Mm,
like, this game is just so damn good, and I don't
I
think
don't think
people
they do either.
appreciate just how good that game is because I know it's difficult, and I get that there is
Mm,
a a barrier of entry to that game, and it's not your typical
yeah,
like roguelite that I think a lot of people are used to,
it's so good.
but oh man, it's so good. It's because I
Oh,
recently played
nice,
it on my Vita, which I actually have right here.
nice.
Super
No,
Stardust
not yet. But
Delta.
I've been
Did you ever play
wanting
that
to
one
play that.
from Housemark? Yeah, it's because that came out before Resogun, and you can see kind of this evolution of Housemark from Super Stardust to Resogun, which Resogun is a phenomenal game, and then now to Returnal. Like you can kind of see that core DNA that just
That's great.
translate through all those games, and I love that. So I don't think we're going to hear from them for
Oh,
a while, but I'm very curious to see what they're going to come up with next because they don't really do
oh
sequels,
yeah.
so I wouldn't
I'm
expect like a
intrigued
Returnal
what they'll
two or
do
anything.
next.
Yeah. Let's see.
Hmm.
We obviously know what Insomniac's working on. Um, London Studio. Like I think these guys do some VR stuff, but
No,
I don't
I'm
anything to input
just
there.
looking at London Studio and just seeing if have got anything planned. Like I'm looking at just what they've worked on, and yeah, apparently their last game was Blood and Truth 2019 PlayStation VR. Um,
Oh,
Before that, Sing Star
yep.
Celebration. So it's been like a good 3 years, and there's absolutely no word on what they're doing. But hopefully they'll come up with something soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd
Yeah,
imagine it's a
perhaps.
probably another VR title if I had to guess. Um, Media Molecule. This is an interesting one because they
Who
all they do is dreams,
knows?
and I don't know why. If I'm being honest, did you ever try
No,
dreams or
I
like what
did
do you?
not. That was definitely not. That was definitely not something for me.
Me neither. No, I don't know why they put so much time
Uh,
and effort into that game. Like, I I get it's neat and I get the idea
yeah,
behind it, but I just don't think it landed. So like I
yeah.
feel like they move on. Like, give me
No,
something
they have
else
not.
because they haven't done anything for a long
They
time.
need they
It's
need
just
they
been
need to
dreams.
get working on something soon.
So, yeah, I would absolutely agree. Like, just let dreams go die its death, and or bring it to PC, and then PC can mod it and they'll have fun with it. But like, move on.
Hmm.
Um, we already talked about Naughty Dog,
Yes.
Nixis. I think that's the PC port studio, if I'm not mistaken. So they'll be porting games to PC. I think Returnal's coming up
Hmm.
next, which is exciting for your PC folks. Pixel
Yep.
Opus. I think their last game was Concrete Genie.
I didn't play that.
Did you? I didn't
I
play that
heard
game. I
about it,
have
but
it.
I didn't actually play it myself. And that came out. Apparently, it looks cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
and just think that game
it
came
looks really
out.
cool.
I 2018. So
What was it, like
that's a long
2018?
time.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, you'd think they'd be
I
due up. I mean, 4 to 5
I think
years
that
is
as
kind
these
of a
systems, I
good
think the
dev
trick is that I
cycle.
think that as these systems are becoming more advanced, we're going to see much larger gaps. Because to think about that, you look at something like God of War,
Yeah.
God of War 2018, and I like calling God of War 4. That came out in 2018, and when you actually look at just how much they took from
Yep.
that game to make Ragnarok, and it'd be like 4 years to be like, huh. I think what made that development a little bit harder was they had to make it for two different consoles instead of just focusing on the newest console. So, yeah.
There's the one. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I know Pixel Opus is kind of a smaller studio, and again, I haven't played Concrete Genie, but I would love for them to allow, or Sony to allow this studio to kind of continue to explore that kind of smaller game. Not quite an indie title; it's above an indie title, but just kind of a smaller game, very unique kind of experiences. I would love to see something new from them. Kind of like I know Obsidian over at
No, I
Xbox
have
just
not.
released a game called Pentiment. Have you heard about that game? So
Okay.
it's look it up because it's got a really cool art style, and it's
Hmm.
basically a 16th century murder
That's
mystery,
interesting.
which the premise kind of sounds really cool, and I definitely would like to try that out at some point. But I think it's cool that Xbox allowed them, like a small team at Obsidian, to go
Yeah.
make this small title, this kind of passion project. So I'd love to see that reciprocated from the
Hmm.
like Pixel Opus because I know they're a small studio. So do something unique, something we don't really have on the
Third
platform.
person
We don't need
shooter or
another
something like that.
third person
Because I
action
think even
adventure
the games
game.
that we do know come out, like Spider
Yeah,
Man, that's gonna be
exactly.
third person. Wolverine, that's probably gonna be third person. So it's like, okay, let's try to get away from
Yep.
the third person ones. Like
Yes.
I think one of the more unique ones that came out early this year, if you
Yeah.
play Ghostwire Tokyo, I think that's like the first. I think that's like the first like
Oh,
non third person that we actually got, but I don't think it really got the attention that I think it probably deserved. I think that went a little bit under the radar, but that was something that I had a lot of fun playing. It was definitely
agreed.
different. I don't think
Yep.
it was quite as good as I'd hoped it would be, but it was definitely
Yes.
going in the right direction of adding some level of diversity
Yep.
amongst first party PlayStation games that I think had been much needed for some time.
Yeah. Yeah. Ghostwire is awesome. I played it earlier this year, and I went in with pretty low expectations because I leading up to that game, I was like, I liked what Tango Gameworks did
Oh
with Evil
yes.
Within. I liked the Evil Within 1 and 2. Those games were
Hmm.
awesome. I liked the survival horror elements of it. And
Tokyo's
then for them to go from that
like
to
that.
Ghostwire Tokyo, I was like, I don't really like this direction. Um, but I dove into
Oh,
it
me
and
too.
was pleasantly surprised. Like I just fell in love with that game. Like I loved the collectathon nature about it. I loved exploring
Oh yeah.
Tokyo. I thought the combat
Oh,
was pretty fun, although fairly basic, but it was still
no.
fun. And it actually
Solid
told a
story. I
pretty,
thought
kind of neat little
nothing
story.
nothing incredible, but I thought it got
Yeah,
the job done for
yeah.
what it
So
was trying to do.
I definitely, yes, yeah, I would agree. I don't know. I really enjoyed that game more than I thought I ever would. So
No.
it was a nice change of pace. You bring up a good point there. Um, Gran
Mm.
Turismo, so Polyphony Digital, they just released GT7.
No,
Do you even
unfortunately, I'm
play
not really
GTA
big
or
on
GT at all?
Gran Turismo. I'm more of a Need for Speed fan myself, to be fair.
Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
I want to try GT7 just to try it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not really big into racing games if I'm being honest.
MLB the show.
Let's see, San Diego Studio that they do MLB The Show, so we know that's coming. that'll be coming out. We already talked about
Hmm.
Santa Monica Studio, Sucker Punch. You mentioned Ghost of Tsushima too.
Oh yeah,
I agree
there's
there.
no
Ghost
question
of
we're gonna
Tsushima
get a sequel.
is
There's
awesome. Like that
no
game is
question, and
phenomenal.
I think definitively it'll be
Yeah.
hopefully it'll be strictly on PlayStation 5 and not be a cross generation game because we've it was all
Yes.
because
Please.
I think
Gosh,
I
I
think
hope so.
Returnal up to this point is I don't know I don't know I'd have to look at if Ghostwire.
I think
Yeah, I think only Ghostwire. No,
Ghostwire is PS5
okay.
only.
On the
Yep.
only ones I think is
Um,
Ghostwire, Returnal, and Ratchet and Clank, Rich in Time. I think
yep.
those are the only definitive
Ratchet and Clank.
PlayStation 5 games. I think everything else that's come out that's exclusive has been cross gen. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
I think
yeah.
you're right. Yeah, I think you're yeah, totally right there. Did
Yes,
you
I
play the
did.
Ghost of
Yes, I did.
Tsushima
Absolutely.
DLC? What is it? Iki Island or whatever? Is, uh, how is it? I've wanted to
I
jump into it, but I haven't, found the time.
I
Obviously,
I'd say it's worth.
is it worth it? Maybe is a
I
better
definitely
question.
picked it up. I do think it's worth it. It's just not perfect. There's definitely like one key issue that I have with it.
Okay.
Similar to it was an issue that I also did have. I mean, it's not really. I'm not sure if you want to do spoilers this point, but I just have my issue with it was just simply with the
Yeah.
main antagonist itself. I just thought it did the same mistake of you're
Okay.
building up your antagonist, and the whole time they're trying to negotiate with you, and I was just like, why are you still trying to negotiate? Or like, dude,
Okay.
like to the up to the last boss, he's still trying to say, "Hey, come join me." It's like it's like, dude, I just wiped out your entire
Oh
army. I
gosh.
just destroyed your navy. I killed your soldiers. What more clues can I give you that I'm not interested in joining you? And I think the antagonist of the
Uh,
Iki does the exact same thing. It's like, why are you trying to negotiate with me? I'm not
yeah.
here to join you. So stop it.
That's
I
funny.
think
That's
I
really
think
funny.
the
How long is
DLC.
the
I
DLC?
think
Do you remember?
it's pretty expansive, but I think you can beat it in under 10 hours, but I think there's at minimum maybe 20 hours worth of things to do because I think the island it's about the same size as one of the
Okay.
primary regions that you unlock. I think it's about that size, and there's certainly a lot of things to do, and they certainly do add a number of
Oh, okay.
gameplay
Okay.
elements that weren't accessible at the beginning, but they definitely did add on there. So they definitely did do some work and adding some new things to help give it its
Yeah.
to expand the gameplay style a little bit more that I thought was just great.
Okay. Cool. Last question on Ghost
Yeah,
of
I
Tsushima. Did you ever
tested it a
play the
little bit.
Legends multiplayer?
It was good, just not great.
I've heard that
I
was
think
good.
unless you're
Yeah.
playing with like friends or if you can get a group of
Okay.
friends together, it's probably not all that great. But I think
Yeah.
if you can get friends together, then you'll definitely have a fun time.
That's fair. Okay. Cool. Yeah. It seemed to be pretty successful
Oh
because
yeah,
it earned a lot of goodwill because it was a free update. So I know a lot of people like that. And it seemed like a lot of people
so
really
yeah,
enjoyed it. So I
I
wouldn't be
wouldn't mind if
surprised
they
if they
did
really
that.
expanded upon that in a sequel there. Yeah. Yeah. But definitely
Hmm.
I want a sequel and I want it to be PS5 only. I'm with you on that one. Um, let's see. And then, I don't know about Valkyrie Entertainment. I have
Valkyrie
no idea what
Entertainment.
they
I
do.
mean, like,
Do you know anything about that studio?
um, if
Seems
I
like
remember
they're also a
correctly, I
PC porter,
think
if I'm not mistaken.
they currently I think they're the ones that own. Let me just because just from what I'm seeing, it's like a it supports Infamous, God of War, and Twisted Metal. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they've actually done a game that themselves.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah,
Okay. So they're a support studio. Got it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, and then obviously they do XDev stuff that's on
yeah,
here,
and
but
they've worked on.
that's just kind of random
Yeah.
partnerships, I think. But I don't know.
Oh
So
no, just XDev. I think
I'm
from
sorry, I
what
didn't
I
mean to
can
cut you
see,
off there. Go ahead.
they've worked on things like Until Dawn and Detroit Become Human. But I'm curious, what is that? I think Detroit
Oh,
is. I think
yep.
that's. Sure. Yeah, I think that's Quantic Dream. But
That's Quantic Dream, right?
oh, I just now thought I just remembered
Yeah.
something. I'm not sure if
They're
they
not first
already
party though.
canceled it already, but apparently didn't they have like a Star Wars game that they want? No, no, the
Are you
Eclipse
talking about
one.
the Knights of the Republic one?
Oh, apparently it's
Oh, from
apparently
Quantic Dream. Yeah, they're
it's
working on a Star Wars
still
game.
in the works. Like there it is. It's just not been.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think we're seeing that one for a
it was
while because I know they didn't they
yeah.
announce
I
it
think it
at
was Game Awards
gosh, what
last
was
year.
it? Was it the Game Awards last year?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and it was just a
Oh yeah, for
cinematic
sure.
trailer. So
But
I
yeah,
don't think
apparently
we're seeing
that's
that
like
for like three or
the
4
next
years.
project,
I
but
think it'll be a
they
while.
haven't really given us any more
Um,
information after that. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, I know they partnered with some other, I think, small indie team to work on some indie game. I think they were publishing it or something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
like Quantic Dream games though. Those games are pretty good.
And
Heavy
oh
Heavy
yeah,
Rain was
yeah.
phenomenal. I'm
Heavy
sure you played
Rain,
that one.
Beyond Two Souls, Detroit Become Human. I own all three of those. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, those are really good. Yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting. Like I think there's a few
Yeah.
things to be excited about, but there's just so much
Yeah.
unknown that
I will
like
say this.
who knows what we're
Out of
gonna
I
get.
think
You
all
know what I
the
mean?
main generations of PlayStation that I've been able to in depthly look into. I think this one's the one that has like the most amount of mystery. Like I go back to PlayStation 3, there was like a clear idea of what they want to do, and
Yeah,
then PlayStation 4 was definitely at the top of their game. And I think PlayStation 1, I think PlayStation 4 won that console generation before the console even came out. Because I was there. I was that was the
yeah.
E3 I was at. I was there when they made their
Oh,
announcement.
really?
I was
That's
just like,
awesome.
oh, they're gonna
Oh,
win
that's
this
great.
generation, and the console's not even out. But I think that this one, it's a little unsure. It's a little people trying to even out a little bit more. So there's still a lot that they haven't revealed yet. But I just hope that we get some information soon.
Yeah, you'd
Yeah,
think
true.
we'd get something. So maybe we'll see some of the Game Awards coming up. Um,
Yeah,
maybe a
hopefully.
trailer or a world reveal. From Jeff. So yeah. So let me ask you this: what if, despite all the studios and all things we know or can speculate are coming out, what's the one thing you want to see from PlayStation
Let's
in the
see
next
what's something
next year or
I
two?
would like to see. I would like to see another All Stars too, but they probably won't do that. Uh, that was a fun game.
Oh,
Let's
yeah,
see.
that was a fun game.
I really just want I really just want to see this. Hmm. I'm trying to think. It's like I'd like to see some honestly just another first person franchise. Really, we got yeah like we're going back to real topic is like yeah
First person shooter.
just something that adds to the diversity of different types of games instead of just all of it being just third person action adventure styles, which
Yeah,
all of them are good, but it's just it just seems like we're focusing on that type of game, and either consoles focusing on those type of games. But yeah, just something the appearance of a new IP. I mean, we got plenty of strong IPs that are going strong right now, but like let's try to
yeah,
get something new. And I trust that one of the Surge studios is going to come through for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I would think so too. I think that's in the cards there. He's thinking one franchise I would like to see come back. That I don't know why it ever left. To be honest, is SOCOM.
Oh.
It just seems like that would be
Oh yeah.
like military shooter, especially with the success of like Rainbow Six Siege.
Oh,
Like that
and here's
very
another and
like
here's
why
another
is that
franchise.
not
I know
back
it kind of
yet?
goes back into
I
third
don't
person,
understand
but
why.
what happened with Sly? Sly. I mean, just going
Oh
back. I
yeah,
mean,
Sly Cooper.
just
Yeah,
looking. The last Sly game is if you can believe this, 2013.
was that like
That
2012?
is like, and I don't even know
Oh, okay,
why they
that's a
stopped doing
decade
that.
ago.
And they were supposed to come up with like a Sly movie, which we only got like one trailer for because we got
Oh,
yeah yeah. They released
there was an
a
actual trailer
trailer
for it.
for it.
I didn't even know that.
That I
Wow,
yeah.
that's crazy. Yeah, it makes you kind of wonder what happened. And Do you think I think there is,
Absolutely.
but do you think there's enough room
Oh,
for like a
absolutely.
Ratchet and a Sly to
Because for
exist? Like
whatever
two
reason, you
mascot.
have to remember they
Okay.
also
Yeah,
stopped
I would
making
agree.
Jack and Daxter.
I would
Remember
agree.
that one? That one's even older.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they. I don't even think Jack and
Yeah, that was
Dexter
like from
made it to
PS2, right?
PlayStation 3 outside of the maybe HD remasters. But yeah, they. Yeah, I don't think that it got past the
Yep.
PlayStation 2 era for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show you that there's a lot of IP to
But
dig from to
yeah.
like bring it forward. You don't have to bring them all
Oh,
forward, but just
absolutely.
bring one. Here and there. You've got a deep pockets. Back there, a lot of history. But yeah, SOCOM. I don't know, man. It just seems like it just especially since I know PlayStation's really concerned
Hmm.
about losing Call of Duty with the Microsoft Activision Blizzard thing. Like, so I'm not saying SOCOM can compete with Call of Duty by any means. Call of Duty is this phenomenal juggernaut, but
I
like
always thought
at
that's
least
what.
gives you something to
Oh,
compete with it
I always
and
thought
bring
that's
you
what
could turn
the
that into a first person
Killzone
shooter.
and Resistance franchises were. It's like, okay, we obviously don't have a game of the quality of a Halo
Yeah.
for sure, but at least we have our own first person things that actually is
Yes.
different and tries its own thing, and it's for PlayStation. And I miss that about this. Like, if you can't bring both of them back, just focus on the
Yeah.
one. More likely, I would prefer they go to
Yeah.
Resistance since that series ended before Killzone. But yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be.
Yeah. I think Resistance
Oh,
would
I
be a good one. That's such a
love
neat
that.
premise too. Like the whole alien
Love
invasion thing.
that.
Like that's awesome. Like bring that shit back. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple small questions as we wrap up here. That'd be fun to dive
Hmm.
into. So, obviously, we know your game of the year of this year, God of War Ragnarok. You mentioned that, but are there any other
Oh,
games that you've played that are
definitely.
just kind of sit atop the list as like
Let's
amongst your
see.
favorites
Let's just
that you've
double
played
check.
this year so
I
far?
think Horizon. That's definitely up there. I think
Yeah.
Ghost. I
Okay.
think that's another thing. Another one that's up there. Let me just double check.
Ghostwire Tokyo.
Uh, because I'm trying to think. Like, I think Call of Duty. I think that's pretty good. I did play a. What else did I play? Because I did a lot of retro
Okay.
reviews. Uh, uh,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be something that came out this year
Live
either. Just
Alive, but
anything you played this year.
That's Nintendo. Hopefully, I'm hoping that like Callisto Protocol that'll be something.
Oh yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
I hope so too.
yeah,
I am very much
yeah.
looking forward to
Those
that game.
just a
Like I'm
few that I
hyped
can
for it.
off the top of my head
So
that I
hyped
know
for
I've
it.
played that I've really enjoyed through. They're on the main console. What about you?
Yeah. So a couple come to mind. I've actually been trying to this year I've kept track of like the games that I've beaten like all the way through.
Okay,
So a couple come to mind.
okay.
TMNT
Is it
Shredder's Revenge,
reminiscent like the old school
that beat 'em
Turtles of
up
Time
game.
games?
That game
Does
was
it play out like
awesome.
those? Or
And like
okay,
being
that'll be something I need to test out. Yeah.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's such like
Oh
an
yeah,
ode to
absolutely.
like the classic 90s cartoon if you were ever into that as a kid. So like, and it was funny because as I was playing it, like all you get to the boss, and I'm like, oh, I remember that character from the
Oh
cartoons,
great.
and just kind of that nostalgic feeling. But it's awesome, beautiful graphics, great soundtrack, definitely a really good game. Ghostwire Tokyo, we already touched on that, but I really enjoyed that game. Definitely endear it.
Hmm,
Um,
nice.
Inscription, I played that for the first time on PS4 because that came out this year. It's a card game, but and I'm not really big into like deck building card games, but there's enough there to kind
Okay.
of throw you off your game. It's a game that's not really what it
All right.
seems. And I'll leave it at that without spoiling anything. But that was a really cool game. And then another one that comes to mind is Nobody Saves the World. I played that over on Xbox because it was on Game Pass, but it's on PlayStation. And
Uh,
it's by Drinkbox
no,
Studios. Have you ever played any of their
no,
games?
not that.
I know
Not
they
that I
did
can
like
recall.
Guacamelee.
Okay.
That's probably their biggest ones. But they make good stuff. But Nobody Save the World is it's kind of it's an action RPG style game, top down, and I think one of the fun things about it is the whole kind of niche of the game is you can turn yourself into these various characters that you come across. So you get different abilities, and then you can kind of start playing with your builds and kind of combining abilities from all these different characters as you
Okay.
various go through various dungeons because it is a dungeon
Okay.
crawler. with RPG
All right.
elements, and it was just a lot of fun. Just a lot of fun to play through. So those are probably the ones that
Huh.
come to mind. Obviously, I loved Horizon. That's I haven't having not
Okay.
finished God of War Ragnarok. That's probably my game of the year so far this year is Horizon. That game just I loved it. It's
Oh
you know
yeah.
it's one of those games I just couldn't
Felt the
put
same
down. Like I
way.
just wanted to keep playing
And
through it, keep going through it, and
I think that was at a
again,
time where I was only working one job. I'm currently working two jobs, so it took me a little bit longer to get through God of War than I would have liked. But oh yeah, I definitely felt the same way.
yeah, yeah. Um, so with that, looking into next
Definitely
year,
Dead Space.
most
That's
anticipated
at the
game
top
or
of the
games, like
list.
what are you looking forward to the
I don't
most?
need to be too anticipated for something
Okay,
like Resident Evil 4 remake, which is probably going to be more of the same what we got with the Resident
yeah,
Evil 2 and 3 remake. I wish they'd done Code Veronica verse. I mean, I knew that 4 was
yeah,
coming, and I don't think it's necessary because that game is so perfect on its own. But I wish they'd done Code Veronica first before tackling 4, because now I'm curious of how far
yeah.
are they going to go with these remakes. Like, are they going to remake 5? Are they going to remake 6? I'm like, is that necessary? Like,
Like, is that
I'm not
necessary?
sure if Spider Man might come out next
I
year.
don't think.
It
Yeah,
might.
I don't know.
We haven't got. uh, Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical on
because
that. Part of me thinks like
because we
it
haven't
will,
seen
but the
any
other part of me is
gameplay
like,
for it.
I
All
don't
we've
know,
gotten
man.
is one
Insomniac's been turning
trailer
around a lot of games.
for that. I'm sure we might get a couple of announcements at
Yep.
hopefully VGAs
Yeah.
this year. So yeah.
Yep.
Oh yes, for
Yeah.
sure.
I'm expecting something. At least one or two. Um. Yeah. For me, a couple games come to mind. One that I didn't think I would ever say, but the more I've seen it, like after seeing
Hmm.
gameplay, I'm really intrigued about this game and want to try it out. Is Forspoken.
Hmm.
Despite its cringy dialogue, and
I,
I've shat on
uh,
that game. I have royally shat on that game for its dialogue. But after watching the gameplay, because I think
oh yeah.
it was towards the end of summer, they
Oh,
released like a 10-minute gameplay video of it, and I was like, this actually
also
looks really fun. And
also
just
that
watching
I'm
kind of
also
the
looking forward
moment to moment
to that
gameplay, actually seeing what you're going to
Ravenclaw.
do.
So Hogwarts Legacy. So.
Is that okay?
Oh
That's what I was
yes.
going to get. I was going to be my guess, but I wasn't 100% sure. That game does look really awesome. Very good. Very
Mm,
good. I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan, but that game looks incredible, I have to say. Um, and then obviously looking forward to Dead Space, but
okay.
on the Xbox side, I'm really looking forward to Redfall because I like
Yes, it did.
Arcane Studios. I liked. Did you play Deathloop? I really look thinking back, I really enjoyed that game for what it was, but I've just historically really liked all of
Okay.
Arcane's games. Like I love the Dishonored games, which I played all these on PlayStation primarily. Dishonored I thought was all really good.
Yeah,
Prey was
I dabbled in
probably my
that,
least
but I
favorite
never
of
actually
their more
finished it. But
recent
I
titles,
played for
but
a little bit.
I liked it for what it was. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. You can actually beat
Yeah,
that, get one of the
I
endings in
heard.
that game very quickly, like within I think an hour or something like that. You can beat it. Yeah. But then yeah, Deathloop was really good. So I'm excited to see what they do next. And after I think during their summer showcase, they showed off some of their gameplay for Redfall, and I was like, yeah, I know it's more co-op focused, which is not my thing. So I plan to play it single player. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't know, it just looks fun, and I love their style.
Yeah.
They just have a kind of a unique style that I really dig. So I'm looking forward to that game quite a bit. Yeah. Yeah, and Spider-Man 2, of course, is going to be a good one.
I'm big
Final
into Final
Fantasy
Fantasy
16.
games.
Are you looking forward to that? Are you big into the Final
I think
Fantasy games?
Final Fantasy. I'd say 10 is my second favorite game of all time. It still remains my favorite JRPG game of all time. Uh,
Okay.
it's kind of like a weird. I kind of like have a polarizing relationship with Final Fantasy right now. So I'll give 16 a chance. It's definitely far different than any entry I've seen before.
Okay.
They're definitely using a lot of elements that I've seen in the past, but not executed in the way that they've been projecting it. So yeah, I think I'll give it a shot when it comes out next year for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of
Exactly.
the things that interests me the most is it's kind of a return back to that fantasy setting as opposed to like, 13 and 15, which wasn't really for me.
Hmm.
But I've always liked the kind of older
Yeah.
medieval settings for Final Fantasy games. Those seem to be the ones that I play and enjoy. So I'm looking forward to that definitely. So we'll see how that
Hmm.
goes. But yeah, I think next year's gonna be just jam packed across the board. I mean, I did an episode of the podcast just kind of looking at the games that we know are supposedly coming out next year, and it's just I don't even know how you speculate for what could be game of the year next year with games like
Hmm.
Spider-Man 2, Starfield from
No, yeah,
Xbox supposedly,
that's gonna be big.
and then Legend of Zelda,
Hmm.
Tears of the Kingdom. That's
No, for
massive.
sure. I think we're all
So
in good hands for next year for
it's
sure.
gonna be crazy next year.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just don't know how I'm gonna find the time to play these games. I mean,
Hmm.
it's a
Wish I had
struggle
more
of getting
time.
older and being
Wish
an
days
adult,
were
right?
longer so we had more time to play. But heck, adulthood, slows everything down a lot.
Yeah. 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 I mean, there will be nothing short.
Hmm.
We're gonna be
Yeah, I
way more
guess.
games to play, and the backlogs will just grow, and that's a good problem to have, I guess. So, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
thanks for having
that's
me.
all I got for this episode. So, Brian, I want to thank you for your
Oh,
time
oh, this
on
was
the
a lot of
show and
fun.
in talking with me and talking PlayStation and some video games. I really do appreciate that. Um, for those
You can
listening to the
check out my
podcast, where
content
can people
on
find you
YouTube.
and
The
in
fastest way to
check out your
find my
content?
channel is either type in like 3TR or 3TG. That usually takes you right to my channel. So like, yeah.
Okay.
No,
Cool. And
no
so you
Twitch right
just do
now,
the
but I'm
YouTube
probably
stuff,
gonna
no
restart that
Twitch or
probably
anything like that?
sometime early next year for sure. When I have more time, it's just working two jobs. It's just made it hard to kind of find like a good streaming
Okay.
schedule. But I'm definitely gonna be working on
Yeah.
that for sure sometime next year. But yeah, as of right now, it's mainly just on YouTube for right
Yeah.
now.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Back when I was doing YouTube, I was also trying to get into Twitch,
Oh
and
yeah.
I feel you on the time component because it was very hard to set up a consistent schedule with work and family and all that stuff. So totally feel you on that. But that's awesome. So check
Oh,
out his stuff over on YouTube. See if we not that I have a big audience by any means on this podcast, but let's
oh,
help him get
thanks.
to 80,000
Thanks.
subscribers. That's such a huge milestone. So like so many people. That's awesome, man. But yeah, so for those of you out there, remember the best way you can support the show is to leave us a nice rating, drop comments over on YouTube, subscribe over on YouTube and
Great.
Rumble.
Again,
Appreciate
thank you
your
for
love,
having
kindness,
me.
and support of the show. And again, thank you, Brian, for coming on to the show and let us know what
Thanks.
y'all think. And until next time, I'm Bonfire, and I will see you online.